I want to start by saying what every single speaker that's coming to you guys over the next 3 days is thinking. And that is that the team that put this on and that have done it every single year for the last 4 years are extraordinary human beings. All of us speakers are traveling from all around the world to be with you guys the next 3 days for free. Firstly, because we care about you, we care about the upcoming generations. Secondly, because of the team that's invited us here, right? It was Nelson Mandela that said education is the most powerful weapon with which we can use to change the world. So I think that we collectively, Kate, the whole team at Luminosity, including my best friend, Mr. Andrew Morello, he's here now for his 4th year in a row. A huge gratitude, round of applause for them. Okay, how are we feeling, guys? Next 3 days is going to be interactive, so you're going to interact, you're going to participate. Is that cool? Good, okay. What I'm going to talk to you about is my fundamental belief that has driven everything that I've ever done in my life, from work to life to relationships to everything, which is I believe that we create our world and our life with our thoughts, from the ground up, every inch of it. As Morello said in his introduction, the challenge is that particularly when we're young, we don't hear that enough. To give you an example of that, when I was your age, obviously in high school, I wasn't a good student. In fact, I was probably the worst student. I was highly disengaged. I was relatively intelligent. I could do it. I just didn't know why. I lacked purpose. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. And so I just didn't put in the effort in order to give it a crack, right? In year 11, we did work experience. You had to do work experience. You had to go away for a week and get into the real world. And so I did that, and I went with a family friend who was like you know those family friends, you don't know whether they're a cousin or an uncle's cousin or a husband of a cousin. He's a family friend, well, he's family, I just don't know how he's family. And he was a lawyer, he still is a lawyer today. He worked for Legal Aid down in Victoria, which is where I'm from Melbourne. And he would help people who couldn't afford legal advice, he'd help them with legal advice. And so the first time in my life, I saw stuff happening out in the real world. And that's all I needed to get engaged for long enough in order to start focusing at school. I just needed to have a picture as to why I should be engaged. And that was enough for me. After spending a week with him, I decided I wanted to be a lawyer. I never became a lawyer, but it was enough to get me motivated for 5 minutes to focus while I was at school. And so in year 12, I pulled my finger out. I actually started to commit. I actually started to do a bit of work. And at the end of year 12, I won my first ever academic award. And had you have told anybody in my high school that one day I would win an academic award from my school, they probably would have punched you in the face because they just wouldn't have believed you, right? Now, this award that I won is probably the biggest backhanded compliment / criticism anybody can ever get in their life. Does anyone want to have a guess what the award was? Thank you. Most improved. Jack, you were so shit for so long, you're not that bad anymore, so we're going to give you a trophy. So I'm going, okay, cool. And so I got to do what every teenage boy dreams of doing. I got to go down to the bookstore and pick a book for my prize. Never been in a bookstore in my life. Sorry, I was told not to swear. I have trouble with that request. We'll see how we go. And so I walk into the bookstore, right? First time I'd been in a bookstore in my life. Didn't know my way around at all. I was like, what is this place and what are these things on these shelves? And I was immediately pulled. I was drawn over to the personal development and psychology section. And I was looking at all of the books and none of the titles resonated with me whatsoever until I looked at the very bottom shelf and I saw a book that literally had dust on it. And this book connected with me on a level that I previously didn't know existed. It resonated with me, like at a soul level. And so I pick it up off the shelf and I look at the title and I look at the blurb and I'm sort of skimming through it and I go, this is amazing. It felt like, this book was written in 1937. It felt like the author was standing next to me, whispering in my ear, this is the one, take this. And so I did. And I took it to the counter of the bookstore and the owner of the bookstore was behind the counter that day and struck up a really good rapport with him, and he noticed my school uniform and we were just around the corner, and so having a chat and having a laugh, and all of a sudden he looks down at the title of the book and his entire energy changes, his entire face changes, and he goes, that easy, is it? And I'm like a 17-year-old kid at this point, and I'm going, I suppose so. Apparently, that's what the book says. And his energy stayed there, and he said, your headmaster will give it to you on speech night. And he turned around and he threw the book on the pile of books behind him, because they then give it to you at speech night. Do you guys do speech night? Is that still a thing? So you'll know, it's like the end of school ceremony when you graduate from high school. You get certificates and all that awesome stuff. And so we got to speech night, and I'd never been on stage at high school. Thank God, you shouldn't put me on stage at a high school. But there I am. I'm standing side stage, and I'm like with all the ducks of the school and all the really smart people. And the headmaster, Mr. Irwin, is calling us out one by one. Everybody's going out, collecting their book, shaking his hand and leaving the stage. As I'm standing side stage, never been on stage before, as I'm standing side stage, exact same setup as this, standing behind the curtains here. I'm standing here waiting to get on stage for the first time ever, and the principal, Mr. Irwin, starts to laugh. Hilariously starts to laugh. A moment passes, I can't see him. A moment passes and the whole auditorium starts to laugh. This is friends, this is family, this is peers, this is friends, teachers. The whole auditorium starts to laugh. And so I walk out, first time I was ever on stage at high school, to a laughing principal and a laughing auditorium. I get the book, I shake his hand, I go off, walk down there, and one of my mates is over there. I said to him, why was everybody laughing? And he said, well, Mr. Irwin looked at the title of the book and started to laugh. He then turned it around, held it up for the audience to see, and they too started to laugh at you. The book was called Think and Grow Rich. Think and grow rich. That experience taught me so much. Firstly, that sometimes in life, particularly when we are young, something will connect with us and resonate with us at an intuitive, heart, soul, whatever you call it, gut, whatever, level. Lesson, have you guys got pens and pads and stuff to write? Cool, everybody get it out. Pens and pads, pens and pads. Don't know. Thanks, mate. Lesson number one, the fundamental lesson in my view to building a meaningful life and a career that works for you is follow and trust your inner voice. Follow and trust your inner voice. At 17, I didn't recognize that feeling. I couldn't articulate it. I didn't have the word yet to say that was my intuition. I didn't have the wisdom yet to go, I should actually follow this. I just did, almost accidentally. It was so powerful I couldn't not. That was the first thing it taught me. When something resonates, follow it. I'll talk a bit more about that in a second. The second lesson it taught me is, in your view, guys, talk to me now. Why do you think the auditorium, my headmaster, laughed at that title? Why do you think they were laughing? They judged me. Yeah, totally, they judged me. Why? They doubted, 100% they doubted me. I love that they doubted me. I keep looking to the side. Kate's really not happy with my swearing. That might be the last swear word of the day. Right? But why? The reason they judged me, the reason they laughed, guys, is because we live in a world where thinking and growing rich. Now, my definition of rich has changed over the years. I don't view rich from a monetary standpoint. It's not about money. Rich is having a great life. It's having meaning. It's having purpose. It's having direction. It's having knowledge. It's having wisdom. It's having rich, meaningful relationships. But we live in a world, and this is fascinating to me, we live in a world that to think and grow rich, to think and grow intelligent, to think and grow resourceful, to think and grow compassionate, to think and grow whatever, is so unfamiliar to the world that we live in that it is literally laughable to them. The theme of this conference is dangerous ideas. A dangerous idea is I want to live my life according to how I want to live my life. Right? It pains me to say that, right? How did we as a human race get to a point where it is a dangerous idea to say I'm going to live my life according to what I love? I'm going to live my life according to what brings me joy. I'm going to live my life according to what makes me curious. That is a dangerous idea. When you speak of progress, right? When you speak of improving something, a business, a system, a sports team, anything, when you speak of progress, you're speaking of change. We live in a world that finds comfort in familiarity. We live in a world that wants things to stay the same. And so when you speak of progress, that is a dangerous idea. Most people won't get it. Worst, most people will actually resist it. And that's okay. What I want to go through with you guys today is, I was just thinking this morning, what are the key things that I wish I knew to a greater degree than what I did when I was your age? And I want to talk to you about the 5 very simple, very easy, no big deal, the 5 key things that I think you guys should embody in order to do something meaningful and in order to create the life that you want to create. Right? 5 things. Number 1, please write it down. Know thyself. Know thyself. Right now, guys, we have an education system that was designed in the 1800s. It was designed before the motor vehicle. It was designed long before the internet, long before Snapchat. And it hasn't evolved to the degree that it should. Now, does that mean that it's not important? No, school is an incredible opportunity. Do what I did in year 12, but do it before you get to year 12 if you've still got time. Apply yourself, try, put effort in, right? But recognize it's not a perfect system. The main challenge with school is that it teaches us, you sit there, someone will stand here, probably behind a lectern or in front of a blackboard or something, and I've got the answers, you don't. I'll tell you if you're right or wrong, and I will determine whether you are right or wrong, not you, right? Life is the opposite to that. When it comes to deciding who do I want to be, please everybody write that question down. Who do I want to be? When it comes to exploring, because all of this is an exploration, right? Through life, there's more questions than there are answers. That's fine. Who do I want to be? When it comes to asking questions, what do I want to become? Who do I want to become? What do I want to do when I leave school? When it comes to these sorts of questions, the only person qualified to make those decisions is you. The world will tell you something very different to that, right? And I'm not saying don't respect other people's opinions. I'm respectful to everybody. Respectful to everybody. I listen to everybody. I take it in. But I understand that the ultimate, final decision as to who steers, builds, directs my life, the most reliable form of leadership you will ever find, is your own inner intuition. Your inner intuition is far more powerful than me. Your inner intuition is far more powerful than your parents, than your school, than anything. Right? And even at your age, guys, as I said, when Think and Grow Rich connected with me as a 17-year-old, I didn't know what intuition was, right? And I don't, if you're going, Jack, what the hell is this intuition you speak of? That's cool too. Let me talk to you. There's 2 ways, 2 fundamental things, 2 fundamental principles that once you understand, you can go in search of self. You can start to build an understanding of who you are. I talk a lot about purpose, right? I think everybody that comes to this planet comes called. I think every single person, and this isn't motivational stuff go. This is what I truly, fundamentally, with every cell in my body believe. You couldn't convince me otherwise if you tried. I believe that every single person in this room has something that they are freaking great at. And for most of you, it won't fit in the box or in the textbook of the careers counsellor that you go and speak to. For most of you, it won't be accounting. For most of you, it won't be lawyer, right? It'll be like African basket weaving. And if that's what it is, then what do? Weave baskets in Africa, right? In fact, write that down. If my intuition pulls me in the direction of African basket weaving, seriously, I weave baskets in Africa. How do you find your calling? How do you find that, this purpose word or passion? Follow your passion. And like you're sitting there at 17 going, how the hell do I, what is that? What is this passion thing? Like, I've got to go to maths. I'm not passionate about going, and then after maths, I'm going to geography. What do you guys talk about? Follow your passion, right? I'll give you two things, two principles. Write them down. Number one, follow what brings you joy. Follow what brings you joy. You've all got stuff, and again, it might be African basket weaving, right? What I'm talking about now won't be maths. It won't be accounting. You've all got something or some things that when you do, you light up and time disappears and you immerse yourself in it. It could be painting, it could be poetry, it could be drawing, it could be guitar, it could be Snapchat, it could be anything, right? And I'm not exaggerating, there are people making hundreds of millions of dollars right now off teaching people how to use Snapchat. That's a legitimate career path in 2016. It wasn't when your parents were in high school, so they won't believe it is, but it is, right? The world's changed. So whatever that thing is that lights you up, that's what you explore. Do more of that. Right? Number one, follow your joy. Number two, follow your curiosity. Follow your curiosity. There's probably something that makes most people in this room curious. It'll be different for every person. Kate said it so well in her introduction this morning. So well. She said, what you will learn over the next 3 days is that there is no one way. There is no typical personality for success. That's the truth. There's no secret to success. The secret to success, the only thing I've studied, I spent a lot of my time studying people that have shaped the world, from Michelangelo to Einstein to Nelson Mandela to Oprah Winfrey to J.K. Rowling. I've studied them all. If there is one thing that influential and successful people have in common, if there's one thing they all did the same, it's that they all did it differently. They all did it differently. Differently according to what? You guys tell me. Differently according to what? Themselves, right? Their intuition. What brought them joy? What made them curious? That's the only pattern, is that they recognize that their path, their purpose, their life was as unique as their fingerprint and could not be prescribed by anybody else. Now, is that confronting? Yes. Is it freeing? Absolutely. So if something makes you curious, study it. When I was 14, I started to read books on leadership, management, psychology. I've always been fascinated with human beings. I've always been fascinated with making a difference and influencing the world. As Morello said, I choose to do that through education. Right? But school wasn't going to teach me that. Right? When you start learning about stuff that genuinely makes you curious, guess what? You don't just love learning, you get addicted to learning. I hated school. I love learning. Get it? Different, right? Now, some of you probably, again, we're all as unique as our fingerprints, right? Some of you will love school. All of you should try hard in school. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if what brings you joy or what makes you curious falls outside of the textbook, then go buy another book. Still do the textbook when you're in class. Just go buy another book, right? Now, I've just told you to follow your joy and follow your curiosity. There's one consideration we need to build into that, which is what I call an integrity check. Right? Because there's certain things that sometimes we might want to explore that we shouldn't. Right? There's some things that we might want to explore that might harm somebody else. There's some things we might want to do that might not be good for the environment. Right? So my only rule book for life, guys, I don't have many rules. Right? I hate rules. I love principles. I love principles that can guide decision-making. I love principles that can guide your life. I just hate rules, so I don't have many of them. But my rules are, if I did, follow your joy, follow what makes you curious. What's the then consideration to make sure it's good? In inverted commas, 3 questions. Please write them down. Is it good for me? Is it good for me? Question number 2. Is it good for others? Question number 3, is it good for the planet? Is it good for me? Is it good for others? Is it good for the planet? If it's tick, 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 yes, 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 you don't have the right to follow your joy and your curiosity. You have the obligation to follow your joy and follow your curiosity. Who knows what luminosity means? Who knows what luminosity means? Say it again. Practice? Brightness? Yep. Does anyone want to get a little bit more detailed? Yep. Yeah, kind of. Luminosity means to light up from within. There couldn't be a more perfect word for a conference like this. Because we live in a world that tells us that somebody else has the answers. Somebody smarter, somebody more experienced, somebody older, somebody more qualified. What I and every speaker over the next 3 days will tell you is, again, be respectful to it all. Be respectful to everybody. Listen to them. Hear them. I have coaches, I have mentors, I have guides, I have teachers, but they get that I guide me. That's luminosity, to light up from within. Okay? Turn to the person next to you, say, this is intense. Principle number 2, guys. Number 1 was know thyself. Number 2, question OPRs. Question OPRs. OPRs, other people's rules. Dangerous ideas, right? If you talk about like innovation or invention or doing something new, even if that's something new, guys, doesn't have to be starting Facebook. Like, I'm not of the view that everybody should go and start a business. In fact, I'm of the view that most people shouldn't. Doing something new might be parenting your child differently to how your parents parented you. That's innovation. It might be building a garden that's different to your neighbours. That's innovation. It could be starting a business. It could be going and getting a job at a law firm and bringing new ideas to the table for that law firm. It can be anything. But innovation suggests that you are bringing something into the world that doesn't yet exist. And when you do that, you'll be confronted by OPRs, other people's rules. OPRs are basically this, guys. They're any rule that society has or that culture has or that other people have that doesn't resonate with you. Now, that's not to say that your school, right? You don't get to pick the rules that you abide by at school. You don't abide by your rules at school, what happens? You get kicked out of school, right? So they're not OPRs, they're not other people's rules, that's your school's rules, you follow them. What I'm talking about is the rules that says, the cultural belief that says my past will determine my future. That might be true for a lot of people. It's not true for me. My past has nothing to do with my future. An OPR might be it takes money to make money. That's true for a lot of people because they choose to believe that it's true and therefore they create it as such. It's never been true for me. It's never been true for Morello. Another OPR might be you need a formal university qualification in order to be successful. I don't. He doesn't. Right? Another OPR. Good things come to those who wait. Not in my world. Good things come to those who don't. Right? And so as we grow up, learn to question respectfully the world around you. Recognize that a lot of our world is made up of OPRs and choose what is right for you and what resonates for you. Principle number 3. Hard work. Hard work. Whenever you set out on any path in life, guys, that is meaningful, meaning you're doing something that truly matters to you, it will be incredibly, incredibly challenging, right? It will be incredibly challenging. Life is really hard, right? Life is difficult. Life comes with challenges. You want to be an innovator? You want to be somebody that brings dangerous ideas into the world? You've just taken difficulty level of your life from here to here, right? It just got harder. Because rather than following the traditional and safe, tried and proven education path, career path, whatever, you're doing something different. You'll make mistakes. You'll come up against conventional wisdom. You'll come up against resistance. You just made your life harder by pursuing an original path. Now, people like us, we wouldn't have it any other way. I love challenge, and I'll speak to you about this a bit later on. I thrive under challenge. I don't look for ease. I don't look for comfort. It's like people go, Jack, what's the easiest thing to study at uni? I go, that's the wrong question. Because you shouldn't be looking for ease. It shouldn't be, Jack, what industries make the most money right now? That's the wrong question because it's not you-centric. It's asking about what's going on in the world so I can fit into something that already exists. You need to start with self, right? What's true for me? Who do I want to be? What resonates with me? What brings me joy? What makes me curious? And then as you follow that path, it will be really, really challenging. Okay? Any path will be challenging. Here's the thing, and this is why it's so critical, guys, to find something that matters to you. Because if it doesn't, we'll probably give up. But if it does truly, intrinsically, inside of us, it matters, we'll push through the difficult times. We'll push through the challenges where everybody else is giving up. That's power. Who here plays football? Show of hands. Right? Who here plays... what sport do girls play that's outdoors in the winter? Netball. Who plays netball? Okay. Who plays some sport outside ever? Who's not going to put up their hand regardless of what I ask? Thank you for your honesty. Okay. Now, let's use football training for example, right? Let's pretend it's a Wednesday afternoon, you're at footy training. It's raining. It's hailing. You're in your footy shorts, you're in your footy uniform, but you're not rugged up, there's no scarves, there's no raincoats. You're out in the middle of the oval in mud, it's raining, you're with like 15, 18 of your mates, your coach is yelling at you, you're running around, you're out of breath, you're tired, you're fatigued. If someone was standing on the side of that oval who didn't like footy, and they're in their car and they're in the heater and they've got their scarf on, what are they thinking? They're going, stuff that. That looks hard and challenging and difficult and cold and tired, and why would anyone subject themselves to that? But where was it? You, the footy player, right? You're out in the oval, it's raining, you might be cold, you are tired, you're getting punched in the face. Are you loving every second of it? Who heard that? Show of hands. He goes, oh yeah, right? Because when you love it, you love the challenges too. It's just when you go and do accounting, because that's what Mum said, a challenge comes up and you go, well, stuff that, I'm going to go do something else, because you were never actually intrinsically connected to it. Right? Find something you love, and that's not a 5-minute job, guys. Many of you will not know what you love when you finish year 12. Is that okay? Yes or yes? Yes. Right? How do you find what you love? How do you, firstly, in my view, you probably already know somewhere inside of you. In my view, it's about bringing it out. Because it might be African basket weaving and nobody's ever told you that's a valid answer. And so you haven't said it yet, even to yourself. Right? In order to explore thyself, in order to find something that really matters to you, 2 things, guys. Please write them down. We're still under point number 3. 2 things. Self-exploration. Self-exploration. Read books that prompt you to analyze you. Read books that ask you questions that you don't normally get asked, right? As Morello said, I wrote this book recently. It only came out about 6 weeks ago. In its first week, it was the #1 best-selling business book in Australia. This book, from a human perspective, disregarding all the OPRs and going, what matters to you? How do you lead a meaningful life? Contains all of that guidance and the questions. I wish we had a copy for everybody, right? Because it's important. I wish we had a copy for everybody. Number 1, explore thyself. Number 2, explore the world. Explore the world. Now, when I say explore the world, guys, I don't necessarily mean travel. Although it could be that, I'm just not saying that's the only way to explore the world. Travel is an amazing way to explore the world. I've just come back from a month in Europe. Complete holiday. Obviously doing a bit of work while I was over there, but I explore the world still today because I'm forever curious. I'm curious about history. I'm curious about who shaped the world that we live in today. I'm curious about how do we shape it for tomorrow. And so I go to Rome and I look at paintings that Michelangelo painted 500 years ago because he influenced the world of art today, right? And I go, well, how did he influence the world of art 500 years ago in a way that's still relevant today? So I'm exploring the world. And in learning about a sculptor turned painter from 500 years ago, it teaches me a little bit about myself. Exploring the world can mean travel. It can mean going and getting work experience. It can mean reading blogs about things that make you curious. Right? It can be going and talking to people. It can be, you guys have got a bunch of youth workers up the back. You guys have got an incredible team here for the next 3 days. It can be just going up to someone and going, I feel a bit lost. I don't know what I'm passionate about. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what I'm good at. I don't even know what question to ask you. Can you just help? Right, that's exploring the world because you're getting out of the box that we live in and you're going and asking questions and you're searching for answers. Why do we search the world? It comes back to point number 1. It enables us to explore ourselves. So if you don't know what you're passionate about, if you don't know what your calling is, 2 things, guys. Inner exploration, exploration of self. Number 2, outer exploration, exploration of the world. Who gets it? Say yes. That was really bad, guys. I'm up here, I'm puffing, I'm running around, I'm swearing when I shouldn't. Who gets it? Say yes. Yes. Jesus, there we go. That worked. Good, good, good. Okay, how much time have I got at the back? 10. Good, thank you. 2 more points, guys, then we'll do some quick Q&A. Number 4. Challenge comes to make you better. Challenge comes to make you better. When I was 5, my parents ran a not-for-profit agency called Breaking the Cycle. Breaking the Cycle would take long-term unemployed youth off the street, so youth at risk off the street. They'd put them through a 3-month training program, and then they'd place them into employment. And they were the most successful employment agency for youth at risk in the country, right? So when I was 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, most kids are sort of getting their pen license or whatever happens at school when you're 6, 7, and 8. And I was like spending time with kids, I say kids, I was 6, they were 18, that had just come out of jail or had just come from an abusive home. And I'd see that they'd go through a training process and an exploration process for 3 months that would put them into employment, and their entire life would change because someone took the time and the space and the effort and the care to stop and go, hey, what's important to you? Right? Very similar to what you guys are doing for the next 3 days. Now, government eventually restructured the way they issued money out to not-for-profit organisations. A lot of not-for-profit organisations are reliant on government funding, some of them. Government pulled the funding, Breaking the Cycle collapsed. Right? Shortly after that, we lost all of our money through a failed business that my father tried to do. Right? Shortly after that, it's about 13, 14, my parents separated. During those 4 or 5 years, I was at high school, hated it. When I was 18, my older brother Tom, he was 21, he died as a result of drugs. 3 days later, I started my first business. Over 2 years, it failed. The next 3 years, I didn't have any visible success. I had a lot of progress and success internally. I was learning, but it was my apprenticeship. I didn't have any visible success by society's criteria, right? I wasn't making any money. And so, you know, I could construct an argument, I'm 29 today, I could construct an argument that says, sorry guys, my throat is going bad, that for the first 23, 24 years of my life, I wasn't having a lot of fun. In fact, it felt like going through hell and back. Right? When I started to get perspective as to why challenges come to us, I started to think about it all very differently. Breaking the cycle collapsing when I was like 8, 9, whatever I was, taught me that intention to change the world is not enough. You need to have business nous. You need to know how to take things into the world, how to keep things funded, which is a lot of what makes me up today. I'm a business guy. My family losing all of our money gave me the hunger to take on larger challenges in life. My parents separating taught me to study relationships. And I don't buy into the OPR that you have to be with somebody forever. That doesn't fit in with the way I view the world, doesn't fit in with the way I view relationships. And so I'm now of the view that 2 people love each other. They might not love each other forever. If they respectfully and lovingly go separate ways, that's probably a good outcome. But it took the separation of my parents to learn that. Hating high school meant that when I left, I relished in the freedom and the choices that I had. I was like, I'm no longer constrained by a timetable. I can do anything. My brother Tom passing away as a result of drugs confirmed for me that I wanted to do the work that Breaking the Cycle did when I was very, very little, in that I wanted to help people lead meaningful lives, because Tom was smarter than I was, he was stronger than I was, he just hadn't found his path, he hadn't found his purpose. So him passing taught me that. My first business failing for like 2 years, and then, you know, stuffing around for the next 3 years after that, gave me a permanent humility, like being humble, that I don't think you can sustain success without. Right? Please write this down. Life is a process of growing into yourself. Life is a process of growing into yourself. If we surveyed everybody in the room and I said, what's the 3 most important things to you in life? Whether you would answer it now or in 5 years, I can guarantee you will. Some of you will today. You would, one of your top 3 would be learning and growth, personal growth, right? The biggest opportunity you have for personal growth is when you are challenged. You don't get growth when you get an A. When you get an F, you analyze, you go back to the drawing board, you have hard conversations, you grow. When someone dies, if you can coach yourself through it and coach the people around you through it, you and they grow. The biggest opportunity for growth, personal growth, comes when you are most challenged. I don't care what the challenge is. The principle is true. And if life is a process of growing into yourself, then challenge is just a way to enable that. Can I tell you what? Everybody in the room, every single person in this room is going to have the same problem throughout their whole life. Do you want to know what it is? Anyone want to know what it is? It's that you believe you shouldn't have them. Your biggest problem is that you believe you shouldn't have them. When you start to view problems and challenge as inevitable stepping stones toward success and self-knowledge and wisdom and maturity, you don't go searching for them. No, you don't want to search for challenge, but you welcome them and you embrace them. Right? There's a lot of value in adversity. There's a lot of value in challenge. Number 5, guys, quickly. The world is built by individuals. The world is built by individuals. Governments do not shape the world that we live in. Corporations do not shape the world that we live in. It was Margaret Mead that said, never doubt that a small group of committed citizens can change the world. In fact, they're the only people that ever have. You guys have probably heard names like Einstein, you've probably heard names like Shakespeare, you've probably heard names like Michelangelo. Michelangelo wasn't just a Ninja Turtle, he was a painter. Right? Michelangelo was just a dude who loved the human anatomy and wanted to capture that in paintings, well, sculptures and paintings. Einstein was just a young boy who got really pissed off and wanted to learn about physics. Shakespeare was just a man who wrote poetry. Oprah was just a girl, and today a lady, that's really good at telling stories that we see ourselves in. These people aren't superhuman. I've met a lot of them. I don't know if you guys know Sir Richard Branson. He's one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world. I spent a week with him on his personal island. It's called Necker Island. He's worth about $8 billion. Right? He's human. They're all human. They all have the same insecurities that you and I do. They all have the same vulnerabilities that you and I do. They all have the same shortcomings that you and I do. They all have the same self-doubt that you and I do. Right? But they followed their joy, they followed their curiosity, and it led them to a path that was meaningful to them. And when you're on a path that's meaningful to you, that's when you produce something great. Thanks, guys.